Guys, one thing I think that's so fun about talking to groups like you who are from different shows nominated for the same Emmy category, it's so interesting because you come from such different backgrounds, even as far as what your training and preparation is. And I'd love to ask you all from the proper acting training that you've all had, and we'll kind of go through one by one. I want to know what has stuck with you, whether it's something specific or something more general. I mean, Robbie, you have a degree from the Tisch School in musical theater here at NYU. When you
Hmm.
think back to that, is there something that stands out from that time that you learned, again, whether small or large, that has carried through to this day?
Yeah, I would say that there is. We had to read a lot of books about acting back then, and some of them can be quite weird and esoteric, and a lot of them I didn't find that useful. But there was one really skinny book written by the students of David Mamet and William H. Macy, and it was called A Practical Handbook for the Actor. And I found that book to be really helpful. I think they were the Atlantic Theater Company, and if I remember correctly, they grew out of the teachings of Sanford Meisner. And basically, it was a few exercises to kind of help get you in the mindset of just really, really believing what you were doing. And that's the only acting book I've ever sort of referred back to since I've had the incredibly good fortune to be able to do it professionally. For me, the most important thing as an audience member is sort of feeling safe in the hands of an actor because they really believe what they're doing. So, whatever it takes to get you to that spot where, the thing that you're doing in any given scene is the most important thing in the world to you is sort of, and I think there's plenty of ways to get there, but this book was helpful in that sense for me. And I find I enjoy watching actors most who just believe the hell out of what they're doing. I find that much more compelling than did they wear a false nose or, did they perfect the wacky dialect that they're doing? That stuff is totally important too. But if they believe what they're doing, then I'll believe it. So that's where I try to get when I'm acting.
Ashley, I know you spent some time at the Sylvia Young Theater
Mm,
School in London, and I was looking at like the list of people that attended this school, Daniel Kaluuya, and also people like Amy Winehouse and Dua Lipa.
yeah.
It's just fascinating. Alex Pettyfer. What do you remember from your time there? You must have been a teenager, I would imagine, when you were taking classes there. What do you remember about that?
I was a lot younger than that actually. I started there when I was about 8 years old, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe even a bit younger. But yeah, I want to say rest in peace to Sylvia. Actually, she recently passed away, so R.I.P. to her. And yeah, I mean, she installed some really. I mean, it was very strict back then when I was going to drama school, and it was a part-time drama school. So they were really onto you about, making good decisions and the type of person that you was outside of acting. And one of the main things they always taught you there was about respecting time, respecting other people's time, and that's something that's really stuck with me. And I had a really stark sort of reminder. I was shooting a movie with Stellan Skarsgård many years ago now. And I was late to get in the car. We were sharing a car. And the first thing he said to me was, spend the rest of the day working out how you're going to give me these 15 minutes back, right? And it was such a powerful moment. I mean, I was scared at the time. I was like, oh, but it was something that really stuck with me, and something I've always really respected. And I think as well being, learning to be present. Kind of jumping on what Rob just said, just about the value in being present in every situation that you're in, especially on a film set. It's so difficult for you to block out cameras and stunt people and all the other things that are going on. So kind of keeping yourself present in the scene. And I've always found the easiest way to do that is to revert back to my childlike self. You're always trying to find that inner child. When you watch your kids playing with their dolls or their toys or whatever they're playing with, you know, you watch them playing and they're genuinely invested in the storyline and everything that they're doing at the time, and you want to try and capture that as much as you can. But yeah, those would be two things that really stand out for me.
So how did you make it up to Stellan Skarsgård those 15 minutes?
I can't tell you that. I'll get in big trouble. No, try. Move on, move on.
I'm moving on. Owen, my understanding is that even though Adolescence is your first professional acting job, you've also taken some acting lessons closer to home in Manchester, England. What, if anything, were you able to take from that experience into this performance?
I mean, I don't have a degree like Rob, or I didn't go to this acting school like Ash, but it was just like a little it was just a drama school that had an agency in it, and it was a hobby at first, and then but I've always just had like a creative side to me where like being when I was little, just faking sick to get off school. That sort of thing where I'm good at it, and I can tell my mum's listening to this right now. But and she's fuming. But yeah, but I just have a creative side to me. I don't know where it came from, but I've been doing it for about 4 years now, and I don't know. It just the things to do in episode 3, which was the first one we did. It just came to me. I didn't really think about it, but the improv. It's the improvisation that was key in the audition process for Adolescence. And that's what we focus on the most in those drama lessons and stuff like that. But I went to those drama lessons just to build my confidence up. I didn't like dream of being where I am now. I just wanted to do it as a hobby, and then maybe in 6 months' time I'd stop doing it. Maybe I just don't enjoy it, but I really enjoyed it. I did it for 2 years, and then Adolescence came along. I had to do self tapes for these small English dramas, but that's why I never got a part for anyone. But I got far in the audition process for Adolescence. I don't know why, because improvisation was key in those auditions and those recalls I got. So, and I mean that's what those drama lessons obviously help with. So, but it's it was difficult for me to get in that character in that time because it's such a dark role, and all I've done in these drama lessons is just think of stupid things and put it into a scene, and so. But it was completely out of comfort zone. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it was. But I just got through it, and I just did whatever the director told me to do, really. So that's about it.
So, okay, this was news to me. So these this series did not shoot in order. You shot episode 3 before episode 1.
Yeah, we shot 3, 1, 2, 4. Yeah.
Why?
So I don't think it's because of Stephen, Ashley, Erin's availability, really. So they just throw me in the deep end as quick as possible, really. So.
Ashley, that was your fault.
I feel like it was more Aaron than me, but it's all.
Okay, just because you mentioned faking sick, have you heard of a movie called Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
you
yeah,
seen it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen it. Yeah,
Good things can happen.
I
Mm.
know. I know.
Um, Rob, it's a little jarring for me to see you with clothes on. Like it's a little strange, but I'm gonna get used to it. What was your initial reaction when you read Dying for Sex, when you read the scripts of the episodes you were going to be in? And of course, I'm thinking particularly of the 7th episode, which is
Yeah.
you and Michelle Williams in that hospital room. What was your first reaction to all that?
I guess I just felt really fortunate, because the scripts were so great. Liz Merriweather and Kim Rosenstock wrote some amazing scripts, and getting to do all that amazing, deep, intense stuff with Michelle Williams, whose reputation precedes her, was just such a thrill. So I really, I learned a lot from her. She's a very generous actor, and she wants everybody to do a great job and have a good time. And so, but at the same time, I knew it would be scary to do that stuff because, I'd be watching one of the great actors of our generation, deteriorate and get ready to die. And so Yeah, it just felt like really sensitive, fine work that we had to do, and felt really lucky to get to do it. But it was hard, like we cried a lot, both on and off screen. Um, and so it was very heavy, but the people doing it, everyone I've mentioned, plus our director Shannon Murphy, everybody was so lockstep united in sort of doing the best and sort of most honest portrayal of it that we could. So it was hard but enjoyable.
You're the Emmy veteran because you do already have a nomination under your belt for, I think it was Catastrophe for writing.
Yeah.
But when you look at what you've been able to do here as an actor, I mean, as strange a question as it might sound, are you very proud of yourself? Do you look at it and think like, wow, this I kind of went to a new level here?
I have difficulty allowing myself to feel pride. Uh, but I felt, let's see here. I do feel like it's like the first time I ever really acted, to tell you the honest truth, because the first thing I ever did that anybody saw was a show that I wrote. So Sharon Horgan and I would write those episodes, and then we'd go to shoot them and we'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're in it too," and bang it out. And and then because I wrote my own show and didn't screw it up, people started to cast me in other stuff, but often as a funny person, And so definitely Dying for Sex was the heaviest acting lifting I've done. And when it was done, honestly, not even when it was done, in the middle of it, I was like, wow, so that's what this can be. So it was the first time that I was like able to be like, I like acting. I enjoy it. I'm so happy I get to do it. Whereas other times I just thought I was like a clown that got tacked on to somebody's project, is what I had felt like. So yeah, it was very gratifying.
Ashley, from your point of view, you have such a long resume of TV work in addition to your music career. Uh, what excited you the most when Adolescence became a reality for you? What were you most intrigued by with the character and the show?
I think it was being able to slightly step out of kind of the roles I've done previously. It was the challenge of kind of conquering something different. And I mean, mainly the style that we shot Adolescence, the one take, um, the one take style for me was fascinating. I'd watched it been done before for many years. I mean, you can go back as far as like Hitchcock was doing stuff like that back in the day. So you've seen it in various different ways. But I was obsessed with Boiling Point that Phil Barantini and Stephen had done previously. So I really wanted to work with him. So it was like, the show. I mean, the show could have been called anything, to be fair, Dave. As long as Phil and Stephen were involved, I was there. But yeah, such an honor, and such a challenge, such an uncomfortable place for me. But as a person that's grown up kind of used to or understanding that when something is hard, it means that you're about to grow. It means that you're about to change. I kind of lean into that stuff, as painful as it is to go through it. And I will say it was, getting there, I did think to myself, why did I agree to do this? Because it was at times it was a nightmare for me. I couldn't sleep some nights because you just don't want to be the person that drops the ball in this in when you're doing a take. So it was like intense fear at times, but then kind of coming to work and watching Owen just like not even care, you know. Not that he didn't care about the role, but just not caring about, everything that's going on around it. And me being so conscious of it, it was good to have him there to kind of realize that you got to go back to the core. This is just about taking in all the information that you've been given, knowing that you've got the answers, and then trusting in yourself, letting go. And the minute I did that, it was the most beautiful experience ever. Kind of tagging on to what Rob sort of said, it was like, that sweet spot of acting that you can't really formulate, really, or find the science for it. But when it happens, you know it. That's what
Mm.
happened every day on set shooting Adolescence. It was a beautiful experience.
Oh, and I mean, I'm reading that there were 500 kids who submitted auditions for this part. That just seems like insurmountable odds. At what point in the process did you think to yourself, like, I think I could be the one that they're going to choose for this, or were you surprised that they did?
I don't know. I didn't know from the start that, oh, I'm gonna get this part. I was just thinking, I'm gonna put everything into into these auditions because you're never gonna get this opportunity again. So, and then I might never get as big as a role as this ever again. So, I had I had nothing and everything to lose really. So, there was pressure on me in the audition, and especially in the days of episode 3. But you just gotta you just gotta get through it, really, haven't you? So, and that's what every actor has to go through. So it isn't just me, but the 1 in 500 is looking back on it, it is surprising, a 1 in 500 chance. But I put so much effort into it. I was analysing the scripts hours before. I'd
Mm.
stay up all night just reading through it, thinking of different ways to do it, get in the room, have a nice chat with Phil, Stephen, and I was always just comfortable in that room at all times, especially in episode 1. Like I couldn't wait to start episode 1 because in episode 3 it was just me and Erin. So and I was waiting for a kid my age to come around, but none of them did. So I was just with the adults. But that's what I would prefer. I prefer being with intelligent people. So, but yeah, it was daunting at first, but I was comfortable by episode 1, and I was looking forward to starting work with Ashley, with Faye, with Steve, and with just everyone really. So yeah.
What went through your mind when you heard Ashley say that you just didn't, not that you didn't seem to care. I know what you mean, Ashley, that you didn't seem bothered by the pressure of the long takes. Is he right? Were you able to just kind of be like, hey, whatever, or were you nervous about it?
I was nervous, yeah, but I don't know, it just didn't really go to my mind. I just wanted to do it well, and as Ashley said, no one wants to be the person that drops the ball. So, and no one did really in any episode. So it was so good, and we were privileged to work on that. So, but it's not the fact that I just didn't care. I think it's the lack of experience that I've had. Like Ashley's been doing this for years, working on big projects. So, but this is my first one, and no one really expected it to be as big as it is. It was just in a tiny little set in some warehouse in the middle of Yorkshire, so it wasn't anything big really. So, but yeah, it was. It's not that I didn't care. It was just I wanted to get it done. I just wanted to get it done, and by the third week of shoot week, I just wanted it to be over. To be fair, but you got to give everything into every take. So yeah.
Peter, I started off by asking all the other guys to talk a little bit about their formal acting training, because Rob went to Tisch and Ashley studied at a theater school in London, and Owen took some classes up in Manchester. And I asked them each to talk about something either large or small that they learned in their training that has kind of stuck with them and continued to matter to this day. I mean, I know your WashU degree is from history, in history, but I also know that you did study,
Well,
so
yeah, the WashU degree never quite happened. I dropped out before that was finished, but I left my senior year.
okay.
Um, I started out studying the actor studio program came to WashU when I was there. It's the one that ended up at the new school. And they had Lipton do all that stuff. So the sort of tryout, the out of town tryout, was at WashU, and yeah, I got to study with like Carlton Collier and Shelley Winters and Ellen Burstyn, all for like a couple of months each. And then I would say that most of my training has just come on the job. I mean, I my first movie I got to watch Sean Penn act almost every day, and it was Dead Man Walking, and he was. It was just really interesting to see not just him act, but all the different ways that actors prepare. You know, there's as many ways to do this thing as there are people.
I love that. Peter, about a year ago when Presumed Innocent was coming out, I remember talking to you and Jake, and we were talking about your character, Tommy Molto, and talking about being an advocate for your character. And I remember you said the word that you used was ferocious. You are a ferocious advocate for this man and a lot of the characters, if not all the characters that you play. What would
Not all of them. When it's not going well,
you
I he's over there and I'm over here, and we have nothing to do with each other. It's that's what you hope for.
what would you say? How would you say that manifests itself? Being in the case of Presumed Innocent and Tommy Molto, how would you say that manifested itself being this advocate for him?
I thought I was a man who rarely, if ever, lied. I thought that was a very important quality to hang on to. But as with anyone who sees themselves as telling the truth all the time, they look out and see a world of liars. And that's a kind of imperious position to hold on to at some point. So, but I really did see it that way. And I think I was right. I mean, the most popular people in the office were not the best advocates, lawyers. And I thought I was the best lawyer and the one who told the truth and the one that kept his ambition in check, even though I had a lot of ambition. I don't know. I really only saw decent things in him.
Hmm. Ashley and Owen, I want to get back to the unique filming situation of Adolescence with these long takes. Ashley, you talk about Alfred Hitchcock. I'm assuming you're talking about Rope, which is a movie that seems like it's in one take, but actually was not because the film canisters only lasted about 10 minutes, so they had to hide things. What about with Adolescence? Are there hidden cuts that we don't know? You're shaking your head no. There are
No,
not.
no. It's a commonly asked question. You're not bad for asking, but um, no, there's no, there's no seams, there's no secret cuts. It's all one long take, and that's why, just thinking about that, you can just tell the immense pressure that does come with it. So, I think everyone handled it really well. Not to go back into what we were just talking about, but um, it's the whole thing. Once the train goes, that's it. You're on it. You got to go with it. Something goes wrong, you carry on. I feel like we had a few good runs on ours. I think on one and two. I think in episode one, maybe a couple of times in the police station, like the lights went out
Mm.
through a take or some technical stuff, but it was never really. We never had to stop because an actor kind of froze and was like, "Ah, I forgot my line," or everyone. We just carried on powering through. And that's why it became such an ensemble piece, because even that guy that was just walking through the door to say one line was so vital and important to timing, to rhythm, to what you're about to do next. So it's a really, really well orchestrated dance that we learned to love.
That's
It's
crazy.
so impressive, man. I just want to say, I, my favorite show. I thought you guys were brilliant. My question is, I can imagine actors doing it because actors come from the theater. We mess up on stage, we keep going. But it's the dance with the technical aspect that I found really impressive. You guys showed up for those shots. The shots came to you. You went to the shots. You had like a whole other part of your brain going on. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it was that well oiled. I think the crew are owed such big respect. I mean, I think they're maybe even more important than us, to be honest, in this process, because not only were they always there, always present, and doing some crazy magical things that I can't even explain till today, but they you forgot they were there. You know, they became a part of the furniture as well. So they weren't in your way. You never felt like, oh, this is hindering me from performing or staying in it or keeping it real, you know. So I think that's a great skill that not, you know, to find a crew that can be that selfless but are that important. I think it was amazing.
Rob, when you watch a show like Adolescence or hear about these guys talking about it, how does it strike you? I mean, obviously, you're no stranger to performing for a long period of time. You've done stand-up sets. I mean, you've done lots of different
Sure.
things. You've also done super short form.
Hmm.
What goes through your mind at the idea of, or the thought of doing it like that?
Well, I mean, I think about, like I said, the first thing I ever did that anybody saw was a show that I happened to write and produce myself. So I just think about all the coordination of the behind the scenes stuff would just be mind-boggling. And I'm trying to think of different sort of maybe multimedia theater productions or like other works of art in the past that could serve as a template beyond just things that have been done in one take because it would take such a special coordination. So I have to put on like seven hats so I can take them all off to the crew of Adolescence and everybody because it's just such a remarkable feat. And yes, I would love to see how the sausage was made very much so.
Mm. Here's a question, Peter. I don't think this really applies to you as much as I'm thinking back to Presumed Innocent, but for the other three, what was it like to watch episodes that you're not in? Because at least I don't think, Rob, you're not in all of them.
No, my guy shows up a
Like
couple episodes in.
times,
And
right? And
so
yeah, go ahead.
So my answer is joyous, because you're very invested in the show, but you can have sort of hold other episodes that you're not in with sort of a lighter touch and appreciate them more objectively. So, I mean, I was guffawing watching the first couple episodes of Dying for Sex. Yeah, I love to watch stuff that I'm in and not see me, that I might focus on other aspects of it. So yeah, the episodes I'm not in are magnificent.
Oh, and how about you?
What like what do you mean? Sorry.
Like, because you're not in all four,
No, I'm not in
right?
episode 2.
Right. So what was it like for you to watch that one, knowing that you could just kind of sit back and just
Yeah,
enjoy?
it was a lot different because going from episode 1 to 2, it was, and then I the only time I went to episode 2 to go watch it was the very very last day, on Friday on the very last take. So we went to go watch it, and I can just like picture myself in the actor's head of what they're going through, the pressure that they're going through, and I'm just sitting on some chair in the back just watching it. Like I have no pressure in the world, and it was a mad feeling at the time because normally that was me, Ashley, Stephen, and there was a lot of pressure on Ashley in that episode. So, and I can just picture it in his head, going like all these thoughts going in his head because the camera's on him. But it's a lot. It's a much better feeling than being on the camera.
Ashley, how about you? Especially with that episode with just Owen and Aaron.
Yeah, it was actually great for me because I didn't, and I wouldn't recommend other actors do this, but I didn't know what was happening after my episode. I didn't have a clue. So to see when I saw them when the rest of the world saw those two eps. So I watched my two, and then I kind of, yeah, I saw everything else, which was great. Actually, it was the first time I actually saw a clip of episode 4 was when we were doing press for the show, and they put me and Stephen in a cinema somewhere in East London and started playing these clips, and I started crying. I was just like, it was like the last moments of that episode where he's in his son's room and sitting on his bed and whatever, and it just tore me apart because bottom line was I realized once I started filming this show that it was all about, for me anyway, and I guess for Stephen as well, about being a dad. It wasn't about my character. I wasn't playing a policeman. I was playing a dad that's a policeman, right? And that's all I had to tap into. And I'm a dad myself. I've got 4 boys, who I love dearly. So it's kind of that connection there throughout the film for me was such an emotional pull. But yeah, definitely amazing.
Well, then, Peter, now I do want to ask you the same question. Even though you're in every episode, there's obviously sequences where Malto's off and they're focusing on the family life or whatever. What struck you about some of the stuff in Presumed Innocent that you obviously weren't there for?
Well, the main thing, and this is true of a lot of television, is when I first agreed to do it, I had no idea of it wasn't written, right? So it didn't exist. So I always take that as a kind of advantage. I mean, there are directors that I've worked with that only gave me my part. Woody Allen only gives you your part. Um, it's a way of maybe not trusting the actor to sort of stay true to their intentions. But you know, I don't follow much of what doesn't have to do with me. So as Tommy Malto, I'm not really that interested in Rusty's family unless it has something to do with the case. I'm just like a one-track mind the whole time. And it sounds like being a slacker, but it actually keeps you kind of true to what your intention is. Let other people figure out what the big story is. I'm like you know, I'm into the small. I'm doing needlepoint. Other people are making the blanket.
That makes total sense. But at the same time, I mean, and obviously, listen, I'm talking to four people who are like at the top of their game and just did like truly exceptional work on wonderful shows. But then you also hear of other examples where someone says, oh, this person was in an entirely different show or an entirely different movie. So there's different ways to look at it, right? There's whether you want your filmmakers to let you in on everything so that you can be of a piece, or to your very uh important point, Peter, to just make sure you're focusing on what your part in it is. So there's
Well,
other,
there's some things that are more tone dependent, right? Like if you had never seen a Coen Brothers movie and you're in a Coen Brothers movie, maybe you should watch one, or get a sense of what other people are doing in the show because it's got a kind of quality to it. But I would say, at least in my case, it was business as usual in terms of what the tone of the piece was.
Hmm. With the few minutes I have left, I'm just going to ask some more random questions to you all. Ashley, I'm just so intrigued. Like, here you are, this guy who had a number one hit song in the UK in 2001 called 21 Seconds, which I would encourage people to go find on YouTube. Or at the very least, you on Graham Norton, when Graham had you like do your verse, your 21-second verse, like, and you were like, of course I know it, and I'm going to do it right now. I I want to know what the rest of the So Solid crew has to say about you and your performance in this show and the fact that you're now an Emmy nominated actor.
Well, we don't talk too much, to be honest, which is the boring answer. But if we did, I would expect them to be very, very proud of, what's happening. And, I know they are. A lot of them are watching from afar. But they've known about my acting chops since one time we were rehearsing for a gig at Radio 1 Live Lounge, and I'd been keeping my acting quiet and we were all sitting in the green room with the TV on, and then up pops an 11-year-old Ashley in the young Indiana Jones from Lucas films from years ago, and everyone's like, "Is that you?" And that was my rap credibility down the drain. My street cred was gone at that point. So everyone, the cat was out the bag.
Would you say these two parts of your career, I mean, obviously you're like focusing on acting now. This was decades ago, but would you say these two parts of your career speak to each other, or do they inform each other or help each other in any way, or are they just two separate parts of your talent skill set?
They live separately, but at times can combine really well. I'd say, they both give me a similar thing. In music, I have the ability to talk about myself and how I'm feeling right now in life, quite candidly, right? And get away with it. Whereas in film and TV, I find parts of characters that are similar to me, to make it look real. But you guys will never know that because it's a character, it's not me. So in both senses, I'm living my life, I'm living my kind of thoughts and stuff out.
Rob, here's a very micro question for you, but just because it's a moment I just love so much. What's the secret to like really effective gross eating on camera because it's par excellence for you
Very
and
kind. Thank you. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just sort of eat like I would if nobody was there and I had like a hose next to me that I could clean off with. So really for my character in Die for Sex, yeah, when I was doing the eating that would understandably upset Michelle Williams, I just tried to, I was like, hey, I'm free to eat the way I truly want. So yeah, I guess the secret is just be yourself if you're a slovenly person like me.
was it like, okay, Rob, do it on a 5 this time. Now do it on a 1, do it on a 10. Like, or would you
They never wanted it to be less than disgusting. So I was like, "Are you going to use this?" Okay.
um Peter, I'm thinking back to the Q&A that I did with you and Jake, and I remember saying to the audience, like, for the one or two of you in this room who are not aware, Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Sarsgaard are brothers-in-law, and people were like, "What?" People were so shocked, like, and which I kind of love that they didn't necessarily know that. When you think back to this whole process, how, if at all, has it affected your relationship with your brother-in-law, kind of doing this great show together, now being nominated for Emmys together and doing the whole experience?
I mean, it's not our first rodeo. I think
True.
it's our fifth rodeo. Um, but there was something, I think Jake and I have always enjoyed going after each other. Like we're brothers in a way, and we're close enough that we can give each other shit. And I think this these parts just let the whole cat out of the bag. We were like, we just had a good time running up at each other. Um, and and I always knew I was going to win because in the end, the story is the story. Um, but yeah, I would say each time we work together, we get a little closer, you know? Um, and I would say that's true with most actors I work with. I like, I'm very good at saying hello, and I'm very good at saying goodbye. And I think that that's sort of the journey of an actor is you have these very intense experiences where you get very close with people.
Hmm.
So for a short period of time, it's like camp or Brigadoon or something. And you drop in, have all these intense relationships, and then on a Friday it ended. You go home, you don't see each other for 6 months until the press comes out.
Hmm. Oh, and for you, when you watched the finished product of Adolescence, particularly your episodes, would you say it turned out as you imagined it would, or were there things about it that surprised you?
Well, the only time I've ever watched a show is at the screenings, to be honest. I haven't watched the show. I just don't, I'm one of them actors that just hate watching themselves on TV. It just creeps me out. It cringes me out as well. I just hate watching myself act. But, um, but yeah, it's like, at the end, episode 4 is my favorite episode, and I don't know why it just is, but like the music and everything about it, like, when I see clips of it, like in episode 3, like it takes you back to the smell of the room, the noise of the room, like, you know what I mean? Like the smell of paint in the room, like wood, because it's just been built, the room's just been built. So it's like those certain like feelings of what it was like on set on that day just brings you back to that exact moment and times on set and the times in the scene that you'd remember. So it was just them sort of things, but I haven't watched the full product. I've only ever watched episode 1 and 2. I haven't watched 3 and 4. So, but no, I've watched 4. I've watched 4. I've not watched 3. But the music and everything about it, it's amazing, really, and it takes you back to this time last year when Ashley was doing episode 2, I think. So yeah.
Is it super cool to know that you're the youngest ever Emmy nominee in this category?
Well, it's it's a bit weird, like, but yeah, it is. have to just do one gig, but yeah, I'm obviously proud of myself, so, and I'm proud, my family proud, so it's amazing to her, really. So yeah.
Well, let me end with one last question. So, Rob and Ashley and Peter, since Owen is here, any advice you want to ask Owen to give you guys on how to be like, the best actor you possibly can be?
You
Um,
don't have to watch any of them, is what I would say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like Owen's pretty much on the right track. I was going to ask him for some advice, to be
That
fair.
was my question. Owen's here. You can ask him your advice and his advice. Maybe the question is how to just be so chill on the set.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. I just take it in my stride, really. But yeah.
Well,
You know,
as
I
I
do I do have to say that like a lot of times as an actor, I try to get back in touch with how much I loved it when I started. And I can tell from your acting how much you love it.
Mm.
And that's like a quality that you end up chasing at a certain point, like because it's not work like other work. It's a different thing. It requires inspiration, which requires joy. And so you have something that I'm always trying to get.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to hear from all four of you. And it's just been so much fun to talk to you all. I congratulate all of you on this exceptional work and these very deserved Emmy nominations. So Peter and Ashley and Rob and Owen, thank you guys and congrats.
Thank you.
Much.
There's Dave.